blessed with a championship prosperity the likes of which we have never seen, cursed by a past riddled with despair. This is Blurst.
Hey everybody, Hayden here. About 10 minutes after we finished recording our podcast on Monday evening, DeAndre Hunter signed a contract extension with the Hawks, signing the small forward to a $95 million four-year extension. The new deal will begin next season, the 23-24 season. So in case you were wondering why we didn't touch on that subject, that's why, and Blake will definitely get further into it on the next full episode of Blurst. Enjoy the show.
What day is it going to be? Oh, yeah, that's right. Wednesday. Hey, good morning. It's Wednesday. Good morning. Hey, what's up? Hello. It's your boy Bleezy, and it is Wednesday. Actually, it is Wednesday. What is this? October 19th. It's not opening day of basketball because that happened last night, but this is Hawks opening day of basketball. And so what better day to hit you with all of our Hawks information than the day of, right when it's fresh, right when you need it most. Just right.
That's when everybody wants it, especially for people like me, Hayden. I do not know much about Hawks or NBA, so I'm going to be learning right there with you, asking the dumb questions so you don't have to, so you guys can learn with me.
You know what's cool about that too is not that you'll ask dumb questions because you're smart, intelligent guy. You'll ask smart ones. But there are actually several podcasts, including some true crime ones that Jess listens to, that they have a second person only to ask those questions. Like the questions that you, the viewer at home, the listener at home is listening, like, hey, what about this? They have someone on there just to ask that question so then the person can answer it. So maybe that's how we'll do it today, which will be fun. So welcome everybody. Typically, if you are a huge Hawks fans, you've probably been listening to podcasts leading up to this point already. Check out Brad Rowland. He does a great job. We are not ashamed to send you other places if you're trying to get more information than we can give you here. But
we're on the lighthearted side here at Blurs for the most part.
Yeah, as long as you're a good person and you do good content, we'll recommend you for sure. And if anyone else wants to recommend us, we'll take those too. So yeah. But the cool part about it is that for those who are like, all right, Hawks start tonight, what's going to happen? Well, here we go. We'll give you the lowdown. So to start off the 2022-2023 NBA season, your Atlanta Hawks will have a starting rotation of at point guard, Trae Young. So this is the most obvious. Ice Trae's back. He'll be here another 5 years under his contract and hopefully for his entire career. I do wonder near the end of his career if he might go to Oklahoma because that's where he's from and want to play for OKC. But
from my experience, people don't want to move back to Oklahoma once they're out.
I feel that, especially Atlanta is just way better too. I don't know if you've ever been to Oklahoma City. It's like
I drove through it once and then I was like, was that it?
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Wild that they have a major sports franchise there.
Oh, it blows my mind. And the weirdest part too is if unlike Atlanta, when you're outside of Atlanta, 30 minutes outside the perimeter on all ways, it's pretty city. Maybe into the south, it's a little different, but it's mainly city. But Oklahoma, it's farmland up into the city. It's farms, city, farms. It's pretty unique. Wild. But yeah, so at our shooting guard this year, a little bit different. Instead of having Kevin Huerter or Bogey, who started the year last year as our shooting guard, it'll be DeJounte Murray. We got him from San Antonio Spurs during the offseason. That was right when Blur started. We were able to talk about it on one of our first podcasts. It was super exciting.
We were just a baby.
We were just a baby, and we were freaking out like the rest of you. This was a huge acquisition, if you will. Acquisition. I like to make up words as we go, but acquisition, if you will. This was uncharacteristic of the Hawks in years past. We've never made a trade like this.
I was about to ask, what's the last pickup we made that was similar in quality to this?
I think Joe Johnson is the one that everyone goes to, but I believe I could be wrong here because it predates my Hawks fandom because I actually didn't become a Hawks fan until I was in college. I wasn't a big into basketball before that. Sure. But I believe it's Joe Johnson. And the different part about that was we signed him. We didn't go out and trade for him because this was a big deal. We traded first round picks for DeJounte. Granted, I think so. I think you will think the same, and Aaron would say the same if he was here. Is that these are late first round picks because the Hawks should be good for years to come, especially when you make moves to get people like DeJounte. So it could definitely work out in our favor that way. At small forward, DeAndre Hunter returns. This is his last year of his rookie contract. He actually had until 6 p.m., which we're recording this at 6:08 p.m. Eastern time right now, to sign an extension before he has to play out the season. He did not sign that extension. What happened here was in the summer they were talking about it. They were about $20 million apart, which 20 million sounds like a lot, but that's not for 1 year. That's over the whole contract. So that's either 5 to 4 million a year, depending on it's 4 to 5 year contract. It makes sense why neither one. It's not nothing. No, it adds up, and it makes sense why DeAndre didn't sign. Like he had a tough year last year, but one, he was the number 4 pick in his draft. 2, he has the build. Like he's 6'8", big physical guy. He plays small forward, which is one of the harder positions to play because you're covering the LeBrons of the league. Like you're covering the best player on the other team most of the time. Sure. And 2, he hasn't had a healthy offseason really his entire NBA career. So he's betting on himself to get healthy this offseason, to come back and actually play really well. Because like, I'll be honest, he was dreadful last year. And he's someone that Aaron and I have been super high on since the day we drafted him. And he's been my pick to like, you see the stardom. Like you'll see, like last year in the playoffs, during the Miami, he was the one shining moment we had in the Miami series when he put up 30 against them in the last game. Like he has the potential to be a star. It's just whether he will get there. And we'll talk about what he may do this year to get to that point. At power forward, we have John Collins returning. Another offseason littered with rumors that we would trade him, but he's back. The Baptist is back, and he's ready to baptize all over again.
This is my favorite player, so...
Dude, and I'm glad
because of his nickname.
Well,
I have not watched him, but I believe in him because John the Baptist is awesome.
Yeah, right now,
these fools.
While you have time, if you're at home and you're not driving and you're listening to this, look up, if you haven't seen already, him baptizing Joel Embiid. It's on a sweatshirt that he wore in the playoffs after we eliminated him that year, where he dunked over Joel Embiid. So he is the Baptist, and I actually believe he's going to have a super big year for us. And then last but not least, starting to finish our starting 5 is Clint Capella. So Clint Capella returns. Onyeka Okongwu is our backup center, and they will probably get close to splitting minutes near the end of this because they're both that talented. So let's just hop right in here.
Hold on, watch this dunk real quick.
Oh yeah, you should watch the dunk.
Okay, Trey's got the ball. He dishes it alley-oop to John the freaking Baptist Collins. Wow.
And the biggest thing about that is worth watching. And the thing is about that is like we win that series against.
Oh my god, he has like Joel Embiid in a headlock while he's.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then he wore it on a sweatshirt at like after one of the games during that series after we beat them.
Oh, that's why when I was googling it, it said John Collins Joel Embiid dunk shirt.
Yep, because he's got it. Yeah, so what we'll do is we're going to look at a player outlook, and then we'll talk about the fringe players that might not do as much after that. All right, so start off Trae Young. So last year he was a 3rd-team All-NBA. This was a big deal for him because he got that max contract, because the way the NBA works is you sign a max deal, and then if you make an All-NBA team, your max deal is worth more money. So he was able to reach that, so it was worth more money. So he's the max. It was like a 5-year, $207 million or something, like something crazy.
Who votes on All NBA though? That's
the problem.
That contracts can be built on that.
Well, that's the shitty part, and especially, and I'm excuse my language, but I'm gonna say that for Trae because last year he did something that's only been done one time in the NBA. He led the entire NBA in points and assists. So at the end of the year, when you tally up all your major categories, he had the most points and the most assists on the year. It only been happened once before in 1973 by Tiny Archibald. And yeah, a lot of people say because the Hawks didn't win as many games as people thought they should have, that's why he was like snubbed 1st team or 2nd team All NBA, and he was a 3rd team All NBAer. So I actually think he will be a 2nd team or 1st team All NBA this year, because I believe the Hawks will win meaningful games, like anywhere from 47, 50, maybe more. And we'll talk about actually how many games I think we'll win. Yeah, I know. We'll talk about how many games I think we're going to win later, but this will help him make a run for not only will he be an All NBA, but I think Trae is going to be a dark horse MVP candidate this year. Because, and the reason I say that is because, like, and I don't know, the MVP award's really weird in the NBA. Like years ago, if you're doing it the way it should have been done, like LeBron should have won every MVP for like an 8-year period. Like that's just who he is. Like that's how good he is. It's how much he brought to his team. That's just not how it's done in the NBA as much. Like I will say Jokic won the last couple of years, but your team also has to be relevant. It's not it's like a winning award, but also being good award, if that makes sense. Like it
Yeah,
has to be both.
unless you're like the best, and you're too good, like LeBron is, and then they're
Yeah,
like, okay, we got to get somebody else involved here.
exactly. Because you would win it every year. And he
Because I'm
should have,
kind of
honestly.
curious, like that's an interesting situation with MLB right now as well, because you have Shohei Ohtani who can hit and pitch really well,
Right. How's
and
that
so
fair?
and
Yeah.
like that makes him the best player no matter what.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see if they continue to give him the MVP or not. I
I'll
mean,
be
he
curious.
definitely
He deserves
it.
Yeah, no.
But yeah.
But
So,
see, the thing
anyways,
that MLB doesn't do that the basketball does more is like winning match. Like Shohei Ohtani, because the Angels stink, would never win the MVP in the NBA
yeah.
because if you don't make the playoffs or if you're not like a top 4 team, basically, you're not going to win the MVP.
I feel like that tracks. That makes sense for NBA as well, because it's like, I mean, there's a limited roster size in NBA, and like the
Yeah,
amount of impact you have on winning a game is a lot higher
for sure.
in basketball.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Which was weird last year, like to get a little off topic here, because the Ja Morant is another point guard that gets compared to Trey a lot. They play very differently ball styles. Ja Morant is the starting point guard for the Memphis Grizzlies, but he missed 25 games last year. And in those 25 games he missed, the Memphis Grizzlies went like 20-5 or something like that. But he was higher in the MVP voting and higher in all MVP or NBA than Trey was, which makes no sense to me because if you take Trey off the last year's Hawks, we're not a playoff team. Like, so I just make it make sense. That's kind of where I'm at when it comes to Trey Young. Like, I don't know. Give him his people just don't like giving him his due. And maybe it's because he's Atlanta, maybe it's because he's short. I don't know. There's a lot of people think because of his height, he actually doesn't get the credit he deserves. So this year I do. One. Yeah, right. One of our friends, shout out Brady. He might not listen to this podcast, so I can talk about it. But he always swears that if he was 4 inches taller, he'd be a professional athlete. And maybe so. You just never know.
That's one perk of being short. You can always say stuff like that, and then you'll never know if it's true or not.
Yeah, you'll never know.
Except we probably do.
So something about trade that's going to happen this year, though, his counting numbers will go down, and that's because you brought in DeJounte Murray. So if you, I mean, just we're going to be honest about it, he's going to have to split the ball a little bit more. So he might not average the 29 and 10 he averaged last year. But that's okay. You don't need him to. I think you're going to see his efficiency rise, and I believe that he can still average 25 and 10 season where he averaged 25 points, 10 assists. And I actually think you might see his steals go up too. He won't be the like he's always been the guy you kind of put on the person that's not as good, like, hey, go out there and cover the shooter. But because of DeJounte now, like it takes off a lot of the pressure of DeAndre Hunter covering their best defender. And now you have 2 great defenders on the court all the time. So it's really going to help you match up well against their team, which lets Trae Young just focus more on offense, which is what we need. That's what we need. DeJounte Murray. So this last year was his best year statistically. He finished the year 21, 8, and 9. So 21 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, and 9 assists. These are crazy numbers. Almost a triple double. And he's a much smaller guy than Russell Westbrook, who did average a triple double one year. So the last year was his first All-Star appearance. He was the best player on a bad team. And a lot of people, for some reason, I don't know, but a lot of people are selling him short, I feel like, coming to the Hawks. A lot of people don't believe this is enough to get the Hawks over the hump. But as we take a step back and look at the team, if you compare this year to last year was Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Clint Capella. Now you take away Huerter and you put in DeJounte Murray. He's just a much better player. I mean, you're talking about an all-star caliber player who can not only can he dribble, he can shoot, he can attack the rim, but he also can play defense at a high caliber, a high pace.
Well-rounded.
Well-rounded,
Spurs, yeah. Right?
Yeah, he came for the Spurs. So and
maybe that has something to do with it too, because like Spurs are also another small market team compared to some of these bigger names.
He didn't get watched by a lot of people. 100%. Yeah, he didn't get, and they weren't good, so he didn't have to be. And the year, like when they had DeRozan before that, he was the number 2. So he's used to being the number 2 behind someone. So I don't think him working with Trey is going to be a big deal. And in the preseason, you saw them both go off together, which was really exciting to watch. So I believe this year for DeJounte, like he should be focusing on maybe like a 27-7, like, or maybe like a 27-5, even if only a 5 assist a game. Like, I think you want to still see him around that 20 points per game mark. Still, if he can get around 6-7 rebounds, actually his rebounds may drop now that I'm thinking about it, because he does have to compete against Clint Capella and John Collins, which he did not have players like that on his last team. But yeah, I just think around the 20-point mark is going to be huge for him, and anywhere north of 5 assists, north of 5 rebounds will be good. And it's going to put him in that all-star fringe category again. But he's going to be your point attack defender, which means whoever has the ball coming down the court, he's going to play defense first, which last year, a lot of times we had DeAndre Hunter doing that, which he shouldn't. He's just a bigger guy. He he needs to focus more on like the guy that equal height to them, where he can just play slow on him, play good defense. Because DeAndre Hunter's not good at attacking someone's quick with the ball coming at him, when DeJounte excels at that.
So is DeJounte? Wait, how do you say it?
DeJounte.
DeJounte Murray.
But you can call him DeJounte.
DeJounte.
Or you can call them all three DeJounte.
I think I should not do that, or else I'm gonna get stuck saying it for the next 6 months. So is he like our secondary scorer now, you think?
Yes,
like
he'll be our number 2.
Option? Okay.
Yeah. So last year our number 2 was John Collins, even though a lot of people, and this is what argument on Twitter all last year between John Collins stands and John Collins haters was that John Collins is getting paid to be our number 2, but he's not producing like a number 2. And all the stands were like, dude, like he's probably a number 3 on most teams. Like he's probably your third best guy on most teams, like most playoff teams. So like he's not even getting paid to be a number 2 guy. Like his contract's not even like a max deal. Like it's actually a really affordable contract now, especially with the CBA expanding with the TV deals going up. So DeJounte,
Sorry, real quick question. Good. Most like playoff caliber teams, they probably have 2 or 3 max contract players, right?
You have 2. 2 is like what you kind of see mostly, because like the NBA does a good job restricting the contracts. But like if you look at Golden State Warriors right now, they basically have 3 almost. Like that's the thing, is like when you have bird rights, when you have a player on your team over some time, like you can go over the cap to get them, but then you pay the salary tax, the luxury tax. So like the Golden State Warriors are above the salary, and there's a couple other teams that do that too. The Hawks were flirting with it, but we traded Mo Harkless to get below it. Because you really shouldn't be above that line unless you're like, we can win it all.
Yeah.
Like this is a team that can win it all.
That makes sense.
So Miami Heat did that. They basically had 3 max contracts when they did that. They made it a little harder to do that now. And also the NBA has proven that like when you blow all your money on 3 guys, it doesn't always win you the league anymore. Like it won't win you. Yeah. Like other teams found a way to succeed without doing that. But if you look at Milwaukee Bucks, they won with Antetokounmpo, who has like their max deal, and then Chris Middleton also had a max deal, but they also have a Holiday brother, and he's not on a max contract. But like they're close. That's their big 3, so they still kind of go around with that. So our big 3 would be Trey, DeJounte, and JC. But the cool part about that is that DeAndre Hunter also could become your big 3, and then John Collins moves down to your 4th best player, which is like, I don't know. There's a lot of things that can happen this year. It was exciting. So before we finish DJM, I want to talk about this. The Miami series illustrated like the need for a player like DeJounte. When we played them in the playoffs this last year, they shut down Trey, and then shut down our entire team. We couldn't do anything with Trey. Like with Trey couldn't get the ball up, no one else could. So like it just shut the whole team down. And so now with DeJounte, we have 2 guys who can do that equally as well almost. Like DeJounte is not as good as Trey, but he's still a top 30 player in the NBA, top 40 player in the NBA. So now with him and Trey in our backcourt, I believe that we have the best backcourt in basketball. I think a lot of people have us at number 3 behind Golden State, which makes sense because that's Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, which is Jordan Poole is now kind of in that mix. And then number 2 would be the Suns with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. But I think we're better than Chris Paul and Devin Booker at this point. Like Chris Paul's just too old. I think Trey's better, not only at facilitating the ball, but he's a better scorer than both of those players combined, really. And DeJounte Murray, just what he brings on defense is about what Chris Paul brings on defense. So I would put us at 2, maybe 1. There's an argument for us to be better than Golden State, but they just won the championship, so I won't go that far. DeAndre Hunter. So this is our big, like, not only is this a contract year for him, and not only do like the Hawks, they wanted to sign him before the year to get him on that little cheaper deal, but the Hawks are also betting on this guy. They want him to do well. Like, don't get me wrong. Like they know it's going to cost them more money, but they want to pay him more money if he earns that more money. So DeAndre Hunter, like he's the make or break it for us this year. Like I think the Hawks will be a playoff team, but I think the Hawks could be a top 4 seed if DeAndre Hunter just plays to his potential. And you don't even need him to be a superstar. You don't even need him to be an all-star, really. You just need him to be a above replacement playing player because he wasn't last year.
Need him to play his part, right?
Yes, exactly. You need him to play his part.
Expected to do.
And so the things I have for him that we need him to do this year, that I think he can do this year because this is his first healthy offseason, is improve his ball handling. Because last year he was a liability. Every time he touched the ball, almost I felt like if he was taking a dribble, he turned the ball over. It was awful. It was awful. And the year before that, he didn't do that. So a lot of people think
he's playing 3 spot, right?
Yeah, he's playing the 3. So he shouldn't have to carry the ball too much, but he should at least be able to put the ball on the ground.
You should be able to you should definitely be able to handle the ball a little.
So he was turning the ball over at a higher rate last year. A lot of people believe it was because he hurt his wrist in the off or in the postseason, and he came in the offseason not being able to practice dribbling at all. And so he was just rusty coming into the year when he started playing, and he just never got it back. So that's one thing. Second thing's rebounding. He's a big dude. He only averaged 3 rebounds last year a game. Like, that's not good. Like, you want, or maybe it might have been less than that. It might have been 2. But we need at least, I would say you would need at least 4 rebounds out of him, if not 5. And the last thing for him is confidence. Like, when he is hot, he plays, I don't know, man. He's almost unstoppable for the other team. He's a mismatch nightmare. The issue is he's not always confident enough to do it. But when he put up 30 against Miami Heat, like, they're throwing everything at him and they couldn't stop him. So if he's more confident, improves his ball handling, and rebound the ball a little bit more, like, I believe that we're in for a really good season. And I also believe that he could win the Most Improved Player of the Year award. Like, if you go look at his advanced metrics, because he's a well-loved player and the fans hate to hear this, but it's the truth. Like, he ranks in like the bottom, like 150 in the league of like player wise. Like, he's out of the top 150, which is awful in the NBA because you got to think about it. There are 5 starting players for every team. So 5 times 30 is 150. And so you're outside the top 150, then you shouldn't be starting in the NBA.
Right.
So it's not good. And so he just needs to improve. And there's small things he can do to improve to get him to that point where he's worth the money. Not only will he be worth the money, but he'll also be he'll be the starting factor in the Hawks. And if he went, like, even if he doesn't win the Most Improved Player of the Year award, like, I believe he can have a huge impact for the Hawks, but he could be one of those people that win it this year by only changing a couple of things.
What about worst case scenario
for him?
Is he out of the starting lineup at some point this season if he's not playing?
No, that's the issue, is the Hawks don't have anything behind him to start. So if he's not up to par, really what will happen is we just will let him go in the offseason. And we won't live up to the place we could be. Like, the Hawks are good enough to make the playoffs, even with him playing like he did last year. Like, that's not what I'm worried about. But if you want to see us make like a move for the finals this year, he has to step up. Like, he has to play well. Because when you compare us to other teams like the Boston Celtics, who just made it this last year, or the 76ers, who have James Harden and Joel Embiid, or even if you look at who's another team that got better, and the Nets have Ben Simmons, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant. The Bucks have their big 3. Like, if you look at all these teams around us, like, you're going to need every player to step up because we don't have as much star power. Because we have Trey. Trey's I would consider Trey a top 10 player, but by a lot of people, it's a top 15 player in the league. Trey. Beyond that, DeJounte Murray's your next best. He's your top 35 player. And then you get below that, you have like JC, Clint, who are both like top 60 players, top 50. Which, like, so if you look at a whole, like, from Trae Young to like Onyeka Okongwu, who's on our bench, we have a lot of players in the top like 100. Sure. But the issue is you don't have like Kevin Durant and Kyrie, who are both like top 20 players, top 30 players. You know what I mean? Like, I guess they have 3 players in the top 30. Like, there's teams ahead of us have a lot higher highs than us, but our lows aren't as low when it comes to how good our players are. So he's got to step up this year.
Get it, DeAndre.
Yeah, man. I want to see him do well too. Like, he's just a likable guy. Like, you want to root for him. He's on the court, always smiling. Like, he always giving it his all. He's a tough defender, which is like, it's fun to watch someone who's good at defense and basketball because it's just few and far in between. So power forward, John Collins. This last couple of years, he shared the power forward position with Gallo. So Gallinari was the backup power forward, getting paid $20 million a year. So he would literally start so many other teams. And it was a luxury to have him as our backup. I don't want to undersell that at all. But it also took away minutes from John Collins. So like, this year is going to be big for him because he's going to get a couple of minutes back that he hasn't had. I believe it'll be his best season he's had in the last couple of years. I think his scoring will go up. Last year, he only averaged 16 a game. I actually think it might go up to 18, 19, even close to 20. Like, if he becomes our number 3 guy and he's taking more jump shots like he was in this preseason, like, you could see him putting up 20 a game. Because the one big thing we're missing is because Kevin Huerter left, we're missing some threes. Like, Kevin Huerter was automatic at the 3. So some people are going to have to take more threes. And DeJounte Murray doesn't take as many threes as Kevin Huerter. So John Collins would be a natural person to take more threes. He can hit the 3 at a higher clip for a big guy. So I think we'll lean on him a little bit more this year, taking those threes. I also believe like his backup's Jalen Johnson. So a little talk about him. This is only his second year in the league. He did not play many minutes last year. So this is another reason why I believe John Collins will see 32 plus minutes a game, which means Jalen Johnson will probably only get about 15, 16 a game, which giving John Collins this much more time will give him just more chances to score. And also, I think this means he'll play with the backups more. And so that means if he's playing with DeJounte Murray with the 2s, like the second rotation, he'll be their number 2 guy, like to score. So I just think John Collins is. I think John Collins is actually going to benefit more than people think he will. And I think DeJounte Murray helps him out so much because it gives him another pick and pop partner. Because when Clint Capella came in, he kind of took a lot of the lobs away from John Collins that he was seeing. But now your backup point guard is just as lethal as your starting point guard when it comes to alley oops. And I just think John Collins is going to feast.
Murray's more like dribble drive kind of.
Yes, he's dribble drive. So it'll be perfect with John because he can either kick it out to John or John Collins can go in with him and they dribble drive, alley oop, dunk. So like
nice.
And Trey's a dribble drive, but the way he drives is the floater. So that's what kills people is because you can't tell if he's alley ooping or floating. A lot of times with Trey, but with DeJounte, like he's gonna beat you with the speed, and he's gonna either dunk the ball or he's gonna give it off to John Collins, who will dunk the ball.
Jam, baby.
Sam Jam, dude. And I actually like John Collins. A lot of people wanted to see him get traded. I don't know why. Like after all the moves were made this year, like unless you got Kevin Durant, there was no reason to move John Collins. Like you weren't going to be able to upgrade enough to make it worth it. I will say this though, like if we don't have a successful year this year, and I'm not going to, we'll talk about what success might look like later, but if we don't have a year that we deem successful this year, I think he is a likely candidate to get moved. Hopefully not by the deadline. Like if it's as bad where we have to move at the deadline, we're in problems. But I think he's someone that will definitely get moved in the offseason because it was just not working. Like it just, for some reason, we can't figure out how to make it work. But I think this is the year they prove it all wrong though, and that it will work. And I think there's a reason they brought John Collins back for that reason. Last but not least, the starting rotation, Clint Capella. He came in injured last season and out of shape. It was very obvious to start the year. I mean, I think a lot of players came in last year either injured or not up to standards they should have been because they made the playoffs and they thought they were all that. And then they got a rude awakening. But this summer, like you saw it yourself, you watched that video of him doing the alley or the nutmeg dunk. He is in much better shape this year. So I'm very hopeful for him. We just need him to average like 8 and 10, 8 points, 10 rebounds a game, get a couple blocks for me. But Onyeka Okongwu is going to take away some minutes from him. That's the guy we drafted to replace him. And I'll be honest, like Clint Capella have actually, the only reason he's still starting is because he's still good. He's still great, actually. Like Onyeka Okongwu is great. Clint Capella is great. So I think somewhere the Hawks will have an advantage over a lot of teams this year is that there's not going to be much downside from our starting center to our backup center. And because of that too, I think the minutes will be pretty even getting towards the end of the year. I think Clint will start and have more minutes to start. But I think as the year goes on, Okongwu will earn more minutes. And I really believe that the way the games will end will be just based on matchup and who's hot. Like, because they're both great centers and they can both do things differently. So if they're playing small ball, maybe you'll see Okongwu out there. If they're playing big guys, Clint Capella will stay out there. And it's just a good luxury for us to have, if we're going to be honest.
Depth, baby.
Yeah,
That's
man.
a difference.
And speaking of depth, Bogey, who started the year last year, will actually be coming off the bench this year for us. He's going to start the season hurt, so I think he will miss our starting game on Wednesday. But the good news about Bogey coming off the bench is that, dude, he's sneaky. He's so good at shooting. Like he's a spark when you need one. He's going to be a mismatch nightmare for the second team units for all these other teams we're playing against. And if he gets hot, like just watch out. He's going to start raining threes on these teams. And I really do believe if he's healthy, he could be a 6 man of the year award. So the 6 man of the year award goes to the bench player who does the most for their team out of all the NBA. Tyler Hero, I believe, won it last year, averaging like 20 points a game from the bench. I don't think Bogey will average 20 from the bench, but I could see him averaging around 15 from the bench and maybe more, really. Like this Hawks team is going to score a lot of points. We were the number 2 offense last year. I think you could see us Hawks scoring well over 110 a game, maybe closer to 115, 120, which would be nuts. But like, that's kind of the offense I could see happening because of how many good offensive players we do have. Okongwu, who we were talking about just a second ago with Clint Capella, he's worked on his jump shot this offseason. So he's a little smaller as a center. He's like a 6'8", 6'9" center, but he plays big, plays tough. He can play against the biggest centers in the league and do really well against them, especially on the defensive side. But that's why he's working on his jump shot though, because they can then stifle him on the offensive side. And he's got a smooth jumper. His free throw looks nice. Like he makes free throws at a high clip. And for a big guy, that's a big deal. So I really do think this could be a year where he, like his come out party. And then he actually might earn the starting spot by the end of the year. Who knows? I don't know if it'll happen. I think Clint Capella is a better player right now, but I would not be surprised coming the end of the year that he's starting.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Like if there's an injury or something like that gives him an opportunity, and he just holds on to the role after that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what happened last year with Kevin Huerter. He took Bogey's starting spot after Bogey came back from injury. And God forbid that happens though, because then we're talking about Frank the Tank Kaminsky coming in being our backup center. But one, Wisconsin Badgers legend, great player.
Oh yeah.
He's a shooter though as a center, so if he's in the game, you gotta let him shoot. You gotta let him shoot. But he's not great. He's not looked good in the preseason either. But I think it's because he missed all last year with the injury. A couple more players that we're going over. This is like talking about our bench still. AJ Griffin, he's the guy we drafted this year with the 15th pick. I'm not sure how much he'll play because McMillan doesn't play rookies much, but Bogey's gonna be hurt start of the year, and we need 3-point shooting. Like that's just something that's important to put around Trey. Trey can't be the only 3-point shooter out there. And plus threes win the NBA. Like you, the teams that score more threes tend to win the game. It's kind of like the home run in baseball. So with that being said, I think AJ Griffin will actually get a chance to play early and often. Maybe not often, but early, because he is a smooth 3-point shooter. He shot over 45% from the 3-point line in college, which like a good shooter shoots like 35%, 36% from three. So 45 is unreal. Like you're almost making half your shots. It's unreal. So yeah, I think he will definitely get some play time, and he's a bigger dude. He's a stockier 6'6" guy, so I think he can play tough defense. He's just gonna have to learn how to be like that's the hardest thing for rookies coming in is how to defend an NBA player. It's gonna take him a while, but at least his 3-point shooting will be good. And then Jalen Johnson, who we drafted last year, he will be the backup to JC as we were talking about, and this was a big deal. We traded Mo Harkless, which got us under the tax, but also showed that we have faith in Jalen Johnson, which to me is a good sign because that means he's good. Like one, we had a good draft pick, but two, he's showed flashes that he's going to be strong on the offensive side of the ball. He reminds me of I hate saying Ben Simmons, but because Ben Simmons is a bigger guy who can dribble and Jalen Johnson can dribble, but not to the same level as Ben Simmons, but he's also a better shooter than Ben Simmons. So I won't compare him to like the number one pick of his draft, who was like a superstar player, but Jalen Johnson has all the makings to become a great player and could be as good as like John Collins is eventually or better, because he actually, like, to me, his skill case could be better than John Collins because he can dribble the ball more. He can make more. He's a bigger playmaker than John Collins could ever be. Now, will he live up to John Collins in other areas? I'm not sure, but this could be your answer. Like, say this year it doesn't work out and we move on from John Collins. Jalen Johnson may be the guy who just steps up and then becomes your new power forward, which one saves you a ton of money because you're paying John Collins $25 million a year, and you could use that money to go somewhere else. But two, like, Jalen Johnson does things that John Collins is not good at, which is playmaking. So you have another person you can put the ball in their hands and can dribble. And I know like you can't have everyone on your court dribbling the ball, but like it gives you a lot of options when everybody can.
Puts more pressure on the defense as well. Just being able to spread the ball around, and then they can't focus in on Trey or DeJounte.
Yeah, like you said, DeJounte. Yeah, and something else too that's hard about that, and like I'll say that a lot of people don't think about, is that last year we weren't good in the fast break points because not everyone on our team could just pick up the ball and dribble. But this year we're gonna have a lot more people who can take the ball out and dribble quick. So like we actually might see a lot more fast break points by us.
You think that might be a point of emphasis for Nate?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think, and it needs to be too, because like when you see DeJounte can do that and Jalen Johnson can both do that at a higher level than like the average NBA player, you have to use your advantages. And I think that will be something you see. And I think that's something you're going to see differently this year, is that the offense is going to look different at times depending on which point guard's leading the offense. And I think based on matchup, because it showed during the preseason game, based on matchup, there'll be a different point guard probably being the prominent ball handler at different times, just based on matchups, and which is cool. Like, I think it's something that's going to be like the pace will change a lot between the 2-point guards, and it'll also keep defense on their toes. Like, because this is different than a point guard and a really good shooting guard. These are 2-point guards playing together. One's just playing shooting guard, and it's going to rotate who's the shooting guard. You know what I mean? Like,
nice.
It's just
a lot of flexibility.
A lot of flexibility, yes. And round out the second unit, we have Aaron and Justin Holiday. Aaron Holiday will be your backup point guard. I know DeJounte's your backup point guard, but Aaron Holiday will be the de facto backup point guard. He's great. He's good at leading the team. He can do fast breaks as well. He's just a much more confident ball handler than Kevin Huerter was, which I think is why we moved on from Kevin Huerter. Like, his 3-point shooting was great, but like I said, he couldn't dribble the ball well. Like, he just wasn't confident in his playmaking abilities. Aaron Holiday might not play too much, but he is a serviceable small forward shooting guard combo. He can play good defense. And then last but not least, we have Trent Forrest, Jarrett Culver, who are both on 2-way contracts. They will probably not get many minutes early in the year. And same with Vit Krasicki. He's from Croatia, I believe. We got him in a trade for Mo Harkless. He's a backup point guard, but he's 6'8". So he's really a developmental player. We're going to let him sit, probably play the G League, which is like the minor league for our basketball team. And we'll see how he develops. He's kind of just a project. I think the Hawks were like, yes, no, like we could see him doing something. So it'd be kind of cool. Like, I don't know if this year he'll play for us, but next year having a 6'8" point guard you're kind of splashing in would be a total change from Trey at 6'1" at point guard. So it'd just be really cool to see that how that plays out.
Seems like a pretty well-rounded group. Like, how let's get into see like what you think the group is capable of this year.
Yeah, no, and it was about the well-roundedness. The only problem where you see like, oh, what happens if an injury happens? I'm scared if we lose DeAndre Hunter for a period of time because we'll suffer defensively. But I'm really scared if we lose John Collins because that means Jalen Johnson will become your starting power forward. And like I said, I don't know if he's ready for that role yet. Like 15, 16 minutes, sure. 32 minutes a game, I'm not sure. And that also forces someone like Frank Kaminsky to start playing more. And you might actually see like something creative like Onyeka Okongwu get moved to power forward. So we could do it. It just wouldn't be fun. But that's how injuries work with every team, really. Like you don't want to see players get injured. So yeah, let's dive into it. I have Project 538s. They're odds of who's going to make the playoffs and stuff. I brought theirs in because it's contrary to everybody else. So below that, I have the Vegas. Here's the Vegas odds. So the Hawks have the 8th best odds in Vegas to win the Eastern Conference, which like, let me just put that in perspective. Only 6 teams make the playoffs. The top 8 teams technically make the playoffs, but the 10 through 8 seed, wait, am I doing this right? No, 10, 9, 8, 7. The 10 through 7 seed all have to play in a play-in tournament. And then the top 2 teams from the play-in tournament get the 7th and 8th seed. So they have us playing the play-in tournament again, which I disagree with. That's Vegas. I disagree with. And here's why. If we're going to look at who they have top, they have Boston. They return as the favorites. I'm going to say Boston Celtics aren't my favorites anymore. And the reason they're not my favorites anymore is because, one, their head coach just got in that big sexual scandal. So he's suspended for the year.
How so?
So
we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, we won't get into it. It's not good. And I don't know if he'll ever coach for them again. We'll see. I know he's at least suspended for a year. And I think it's going to hurt them more than people think it will. They also traded for Gallo or signed Gallo. And he got hurt too, with someone they're like kind of depending on. So I mean, we'll see. I don't think they'll fall too far. I just don't see them being the number 1 seed again this year. At 2, they have the Milwaukee Bucks. I actually have Milwaukee as like my number 1 seed, only because you have the best player in the world on your team, and Antetokounmpo. You also you're going to have a healthy Chris Middleton, and your whole team's coming back healthy. I don't see why you couldn't be the number 1 seed this year. But I'll say this: I think there's going to be a very close margin between like these top 3 or 4 teams, maybe the top 5 teams, maybe the top 6 teams in the East could all come down to like 2 or 3 games between them all, or 4. You know what I mean? Like, I really do think this is going to come down to the end because the East is loaded this year. Coming in next, they have the Brooklyn Nets, which they did get Kevin Durant back. They have Kyrie Irving. They have Ben Simmons. They have a lot of good role players. I think this is a deep team. This team, to me, could finish anywhere from 1st to 6th just because of all the like drama they have also on their team. So like, I don't know. It's just weird. So I'll just tell you like what I'll do is I'll tell you my rundown on the standings, and then we'll talk about how it differs a little bit. So I Milwaukee 1, Philly 2. That's Joel Embiid, James Harden. James Harden lost over 100 pounds this offseason. 100 pounds.
Wow.
Because he
shaved his beard?
Nah, dude, he was a chunky monkey, man. He needed to lose some of this weight. And now he's going to be a fiend out there. I'm scared to play James Harden. Like peak James Harden's great. And I think he might, I don't know if he'll be peak Harden again, but like anywhere close to peak Harden with Joel Embiid is going to be nuts. Then I have Boston. Like I said, I have Atlanta as the number 4 seed. So I have Atlanta above Brooklyn, above Miami, above Toronto, above Cleveland, above Chicago, and above the Knicks. The reason I did this is that I really don't feel confident how the East is going to shake out, but I do feel pretty confident in the fact that I think the Hawks will be a top 4 seed. And here's why I feel that way. I think we do have the best backcourt in all the Eastern Conference. That means we have the best pair of guards in the whole Eastern Conference. I don't even think it's close. Brooklyn will have Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving, but Ben Simmons is like, he's not really a guard. He's this forward who plays guard. Boston will be an interesting matchup because they will have Marcus Smart, who's a great defensive player, and Brogdon, but that's if Brogdon stays healthy. Miami did not improve at all. So Miami's a lot of people's like top in their top four for their Eastern Conference. I don't know why. I don't get it. They lost one of their better defensive leadership players, and they didn't sign anyone to replace him. They signed Oladipo back. Maybe he comes back healthy, but I just don't see them being where they're at. Cleveland went out and they traded for the Spider, Donovan Mitchell. But if you look at their team, they're top heavy. They have 4 good to great players. And then after that, their bench is awful. And so just in the history of the NBA, when your bench is really bad, you don't typically make it that far unless you have the best player on your team in the world, and they don't. Like Donovan Mitchell's their best player. Yeah, it's just exactly. It's a long season. It happened in Chicago last year, and that's why I have Chicago below them too. Toronto is another team that's a people's dark horse to be maybe a top 5 fringe team. I don't, because they kind of did what Atlanta did last year, which was bring everybody back and hope that your young guys advance and make it to the next round. But I just don't think their young guys are ready to do that yet. And I think too many other teams in the East got better, which is what happened to the Hawks last year. And then to round out the top, I have, so this is the 8th seed. I have it Cleveland. Wait, did I do that right? Yeah, Cleveland. Chicago's number 9 for me because Chicago is they didn't get any new players. They were a top 4 seed last year until injuries hit them. But like I said, they also did not improve. And then New York Knicks are the 10th seed for me. They did get Jalen Brunson in the offseason, but that's not enough. It's just not enough. And the East is too deep. Like, that's the hard part. The East is so deep. This is the better conference this year. I don't know if the team from the East will win the championship, but this is the better conference this year. And I don't even feel confident in my Eastern Conference standings, but I just want to go over it real quick. I have Milwaukee, Philly, Boston, Atlanta, Brooklyn, Miami, Toronto, Cleveland, and then 9 and 10 I have Chicago and New York. It's a crapshoot, but I will tell you the top 5 teams, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee, will be somewhere around there. It'll be one of those 5 teams in first, followed by the rest of those 5 teams. I think they're better than the rest.
We're locked into the playoffs is what you're telling me.
I'm saying we're locked in the playoffs. Yeah, we're not going to be in a play-in. We're not going to be fighting for that. I'm going to say we're locked in the playoffs, and I think we're going to be locked into at least first-round home court advantage.
If we didn't make the playoffs, what happened?
Trae Young got hurt, and DeJounte Murray got hurt. Like, that's the thing, though. Even if Trae Young gets hurt this year, you should theoretically still maybe be able to make playoffs. But if we don't make playoffs, you got to fire your coach. You got to, that's how I feel about Nate McMillan. Like, we got to get off to a hot start this year. In our first 10 games, we need to be 7-3.
The floor this season is the 8th seed, probably, right?
The floor, yes, the 8th seed. Like, I don't even like that. Like, I think, like, my expectations are like 6 seed the floor, but 8's fair. Like, 8's fair. It's a deep East.
Be
I think that's the floor.
Because you'd be in the play-in.
Yeah. But
all right. So then, what are we looking at as far as ceiling? You think this team could actually make another run and get to actually make it to the finals this year?
So this is why I brought 538's projections in, because they actually, unlike everyone else, give the Hawks a chance. They really do. So they give the Hawks a 6% chance of winning the finals. It's not high, but it's not low. Like, that's not low. It's like the.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, that's the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's tied for the 5th highest odds to win. So that's out of the whole NBA, not just the East or the West. That's the entire NBA. They also give the Hawks the 4th highest full strength rating, which just means, like, if your team plays at their full strength, this is the score we give you. And the way they do that is based off the Raptor, which is like some high analytic thing, but they base it off of how each player should perform. They don't do a win-loss thing. And so the Hawks are the 4th highest on that, only followed by Celtics first, Denver Nuggets second, and then the Grizzlies 3rd. And the Hawks are 4th. So by that measure, they're saying the Hawks are the 4th best team in the NBA and the 2nd best team in the East. That's if everything goes right. So for me, the peak would be us to finish, probably 2. I don't see us getting the 1st seed, but the 2nd seed. And the peak for us could be the finals. Like, our team's good enough to make the finals, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we didn't, if that makes sense. Like, that's just how good the East is. Like, I don't expect us to make the finals. I think our expectations should be playoffs, and I think it should be winning at least one round of the playoffs. But I think as the season goes on, expectations change. So,
sure. I mean, yeah, hopefully we get off to a quick start, and maybe the guys buy into the hype a little bit.
I think they will. I think they're hungry this year. I think after getting embarrassed last year, I think you're going to see a hunger this year. And I think here the LA line, or what am I trying to say? The Vegas line for the Hawks is like 44 wins, something like that. Take the over. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't like listen to everything I say, but take the over. Like, I think they are smashed to win 47 games, and I really do think they could win 50 games.
You heard it here first, guys. Take the over. Blake says to bet
you
the
should
house.
You should have took the over on the Falcons too. We should have pushed that harder. I was right.
Well, we all
yeah, y'all took the over
suggested
too.
that. Yeah. You're just looking like way over. So as far as like what you're most excited for going into the season, what do you have in mind?
Man, I'm excited for redemption. Like, I just think the Hawks are one of the most slept on teams right now in the NBA. And I get why. Because last year, I'll be honest, Hawks fans, including myself, came in way too cocky last year. Aaron and I thought we were the number 2 seed coming in the East last year. And we finished ninth or whatever. Like, we barely made, or 10th. Like, and then we made the playoffs because we won the play-in tournaments. But like, I really do think this year we're coming in slept on, and I think this year I'm most excited for us to make a statement because I don't see it blowing up in our face this year. I just don't. I think Trey's too good. The way they built the team around him makes more sense. And so yeah, I'm most excited about just sweet redemption, a redemption tour.
I feel like being slept on is a Atlanta sports tradition almost.
Oh, for sure.
It feels like every team, no matter what, is slept on.
And that's when we're at our best too, though.
Yeah,
is when we're slept on.
Is.
So,
yeah. I mean, the Braves they're coming off being World Series champions, and then they played. They were scheduled for 4-day games. One of them got rained out, turned into a night game. But yeah,
we can talk about that more. I actually, a little bit looking into our podcast coming next week, I do want us to talk about the Braves one more time. And I want to talk about baseball and why do they play so many games and how we feel about that. And I just want to talk about some baseball stuff and how the Braves are incorporated into it. And like, I think that'd be fun. Because like you're saying, like, why does the last year's best team now play 4-day games for their playoff games? Doesn't make any sense.
People hate Atlanta.
Yeah. And I know maybe some people say it's a false narrative, but I don't think so, man. Like,
it's like the large markets for the different sports. Usually it's LA, New York is what they're trying to
I think Atlanta is one of the biggest baseball markets out there. I know this is off topic of the Hawks, but they are.
I mean, that makes sense to me. The Braves obviously being held or owned by Ted Turner for so long.
Yeah.
Being on
America's
TBS.
team.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think so. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Tough,
I think there's a lot of carryover there with other Atlanta sports, and especially the Hawks. I feel like the Hawks are probably the most slept on Atlanta team.
Yeah, yes, and I think last year, like, I feel like last year was the year we weren't slept on, and we embarrassed ourselves. And I think because of that, like I said, we're gonna slept on again. But I think it's only gonna fuel them. And I don't know for a finals. I don't know if we're winning the finals, but I want to tell y'all right now, I think it's gonna be a fun Hawks season, and y'all better be ready for playoffs because we're coming.
Get ready to soar, folks.
Yeah,
we're flying higher and higher. The fire.
Who flies higher this year, the Falcons or the Hawks? God, I hope it's the Hawks. I really do.
It should be the Hawks, probably.
It should be the Hawks, but at the
based on how they are coming into the season. But it's awesome that it's even a conversation.
I'll say this as we're wrapping up this Hawks conversation and this special segment for y'all. Little Falcons stuff, just been able to think about the game a little bit more because we're a day out now. It's so hard to do the podcast the same day as the Falcons game for me, just because like I'm still processing all stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking at the schedule again, and we're talking about how they go 4-2 their next 6 games. Isn't that nuts that they could be 7-5 after their next 6 games? And like looking at playoffs, I saw that like as a common thing being talked about on Twitter today by not just Atlanta people, but like national pundits.
That's exactly what I was about to say. People are starting to take notice. They're like, oh, like we thought that Falcons would be like an easy win on the schedule, and now people are like, oh crap, we have to play the Falcons this week.
Yeah. Oh, we got to play the Falcons. Yeah. So no, I think it's cool. I think Atlanta's like, it sucks that the Brave season's over, but I think we're about to see some more teams make playoff runs, and I think the Dogs and the Hawks are included, but maybe even the Falcons. So
hey, I mean, with one team's death, another is born.
Yeah. So is Blurst.
And such is Blurst.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening. We will be back again next week. Shout out to Oh No for our music as always, our lady friends. Check us out on the TikTok. We've been trending a bit of late.
And we'll have Hawks Talks coming soon. I promise y'all that. I'm just trying to move.
Hawks Talk.
Hawks. All right.
Everybody have a great day. We'll watch some basketball. Later.
Good. That was good.